Greetings, everyone! Today, we invite you to travel back to 1956 to witness a remarkable chess match between 13-year-old Bobby Fischer and his opponent, Donald Byrne, an international grandmother, university professor, and the 1953 U.S. chess champion. This legendary game took place during a tournament at the Frank Marshall Club in the United States. Dubbed the Game of the Century, it has achieved such fame that the current transcript of the game is valued at approximately $100,000. What makes this game so exceptional that it commands such a significant price? Join us as we explore this historic match and uncover its extraordinary qualities. In this game, grandmother Donald Byrne, playing with the white pieces, commenced with the knight move to f3, seeking to probe his opponent's setup. The young Bobby Fischer responded with the knight move to f6, white then advanced the pawn to c4, opting for the English opening. In reply, black pushed the pawn to g6, preparing to fianchetto the bishop to g7, thereby exerting influence over the long diagonal from h8 to a1. White developed the knight to c3, while black fianchettoed the bishop to g7 and prepared to castle. White then advanced the pawn to d4 to control the center and open lines for the bishop. Black castled. And deploy the King Indian defense formation. White moves the bishop to f4. Black pushes the pawn to d5 to exchange and open the way for the bishop to develop. Thus, the King Indian defense opening turned into the Grunfeld defense. Then, without exchanging pawns with black, white moved his queen to b3 to put more pressure on black's b7 pawn, leaving the black bishop unable to move. Black pawn captures c4, white queen takes c for back combined with bishop attacking black pawn c7, black pushes c6 pawn to avoid attack while preventing white knight on c3 from moving to the center. White advances the e4 pawn, establishing a formidable pawn duo that controls the center and clears the path for the bishop's development. In response, black relocates the knight from the b file to d7, connecting the knight pair and reinforcing their position. White maneuvers the rook to e1, seizing control of the half-open d file, while the knight leaps to b6, aggressively pursuing the queen positioned in the center of the board. White shifts the queen to c5, while black advances the bishop to g4, pinning the white knight and clearing the path for the rook on a8 to be developed. At this point, white should move to e2 to unpin the knight and prepare for castling. Instead, white plays g5. This move may aim to provoke black into advancing the h6 pawn, which would push white's bishop away. White could then reposition the bishop to e3 and later move to e2 to achieve castling. But this is a blunder move. What would you do in this situation? Push the pawn to h6? Or move the rook a8 to c8? Or push the rook f8 to e8? In the actual game, despite being only 13 years old, Bobby Fischer made an extraordinarily unconventional move, advancing his knight to a4 and sacrificing it. Remarkably, the computer assessed this as a brilliant move. This move is deemed brilliant because if white's knight captures the black knight on a4, the remaining black knight will seize the e4 pawn, attacking both the white queen and bishop. Queen unable to defend the bishop from the 5th rank, the white queen will be forced to retreat to c1 to protect. After the black bishop captures the white knight, the white pawn recaptures the black bishop, but is then doubled by another pawn. Black's queen moves to a5, delivering a check. White will inevitably lose either the bishop or the knight, with the king becoming exposed in the center, giving black a decisive advantage. If white chooses not to retreat the queen to c1, but instead the bishop captures the pawn on e7, attacking both the black queen and rook, what will be the result? The black knight captures the white queen, followed by the white bishop taking the black queen. The rook moves from f8 to e8, delivering a check. The white bishop moves to e2 to block the check, after which the black bishop captures the white knight. This forces the white pawn to advance to f3. The black knight then captures the white knight, compelling white to move the bishop and consequently lose the b2 pawn. The overall advantage remains with black. Therefore, in a real chess game, a genius but not dead, white does not dare to capture the black knight, but runs the queen back to a3. The black knight captures the white knight. If the white queen captures the black knight captures the e4 pawn, both attacking the white queen and bishop and opening the way for the bishop to control the large diagonal a1-h8, which is not beneficial for white. Therefore, white takes the pawn to capture the black knight. Suddenly, the black knight captured e4 and invited the white bishop to capture the e7 pawn and attack the black queen pair and rook. At this point, we can see that black is threatening to exchange the bishop for white's knight and then destroy the white bishop on g5, but instead leaves an opening on the e7 pawn. Actually, this is not an opening but a trap set by black. Here, white should move the bishop to e3, accepting that black will exchange the bishop for the knight. Although it is one pawn less, the pawn structure is also worse, but overall it can still hold out for a long time. However, in the actual game, perhaps thinking that the opponent is just a 13-year-old boy, white was a bit subjective and underestimated his opponent, taking the bishop to capture e7, which was an incorrect move. Because the e column was opened while the white king was still in the middle of the board and had not yet castled. Seizing on this mistake, black runs queen b6 and invites white to take the rook, but if white is eager to take the black rook, the black bishop will take it back and attack the white queen. White runs queen b3 to exchange queens, taking advantage of the quantity. Black moves the e8 rook and threatens to jump the knight to open check and capture one of white's two rooks. The white queen takes the black queen, the black pawn takes the white queen, and white will definitely still lose one of white's two rooks. For example, if white moves the bishop to e2 to block the check, the black knight will take c3 and attack the white rook. White moves the rook to d2 to strengthen the protection of the bishop. Then black moves the bishop to b4 to prepare to take the knight to eat the white bishop. At that time, the white rook is pinned and cannot eat the black knight. White moves the king to f1 to unpin the bishop, then black jumps the knight to e4 to attack the white rook. No matter where white moves the rook, the black knight still goes on d2 and checks. If white moves the king to g1, the black rook immediately captures the bishop. If white moves the king to e1, the black knight c4 checks and captures the rook. If white takes the knight to capture the black knight, the black bishop will capture the white bishop and then check. If the king moves to e1, then it will be an open check. If the king moves to g1, black will move the bishop to c3 to attack the white rook and the white pawn to d4. If white moves the rook to c2 to attack the black bishop, black will move back the bishop to d3. White will definitely lose the rook, because if the white rook captures the black bishop, the black rook e1, white will be in check and will be checkmated. Back to the actual game, white did not dare to capture the black rook, but developed the bishop c4 to prepare to castle. Not giving white a chance to castle, the black knight captured c3 to attack the white rook and sacrifice the knight for the second time, and the computer continued to evaluate this as a brilliant move. Because if white took the queen to capture the black knight, then black would use the e8 rook to pin and capture the white bishop. If white stubbornly returned to queen a3 to protect the bishop, then black would exchange the bishop for white's knight first, causing white's pawn structure to weaken. Then retreat queen d8 combined with the rook to capture the white bishop. At that time, the quantity was balanced, but white was one pawn less, the pawn structure was scattered, the king was still in the middle of the board, the big advantage still leaned towards black. So in the actual game, this time genius does not mean losing. White did not dare to capture the black knight, but withdrew the bishop to c5 to attack the black queen first, and then captured the black knight. Black did not rush to move the queen, but moved the rook to e8 to check. White moved the king to f1, and thought that black would have to move the queen and accept losing the knight. But unexpectedly, black withdrew the bishop to e6 to sacrifice the queen, and the computer evaluated this as a brilliant move. It was unbelievable. Surely at that time all the spectators watching the game must have exclaimed in surprise, even more surprise when this was a queen sacrifice move by a 13-year-old boy. The question now for white is, should white capture the queen or not? The answer is no. White should capture the black knight, the black queen capture the white bishop, the white pawn captures back the black queen, the black bishop takes the white queen. White trade bishops with black, the black rook takes the white bishop, prepare to stack the two rooks on the e-open column. The advantage is of course still on black's side, but white can still hold out. It is possible that they will have to fight until the end of the game to lose. However, in the actual game, facing the queen being so attractive, the grandmother Donald Byrne could not escape the temptation. He shouted loudly, "Geniuses must die," and immediately took the black queen. Just waiting for that, The black bishop takes the white bishop. White ran the king to g1. Black knight e2, check, makes a windmill attack with the bishop and knight. White ran the king f1. Black knight d for check again. White have to run the king g1. Black knight e to check again. White had to run the king e1. Black knight c3 check and captures the rook. White have to run the king g1. Black did not rush to captures the white rook, but takes the white bishop, which opened the way for the rook to attack the white queen. White ran the queen b4 to attack the black bishop. If the black knight now takes the white rook, the white queen captures the black bishop, although black had the advantage. It had lost the extremely powerful attack, is the windmill attack, still had a great chance to win, but the game would have to drag on. Back to the actual game, black has not yet captured the white rook, but continues to have the correct choice, that is to take the rook down to a4 and attack the white queen and protect black's pieces. Covering each other extremely tightly, the white queen cannot do anything. If now running the queen d6 to protect the rook, the black knight will still capture the white rook. The white queen will capture the black knight, the black rook will capture a2, attack a1, pin and capture the white queen. Here, white should sacrifice the queen to capture the black rook so that the white rook can escape. Sacrificing the queen in exchange for the rook is still better than losing the rook. However, because of regretting the queen or maybe thinking that keeping the queen can create a breakthrough, maybe it can checkmate, so white runs away with the queen and captures the black pawn b6, the black knight captures the white rook. So after sacrificing queen, black captures a rook, and to white bishops, black is clearly in the lead. White pushes the pawn to h3 to open the way for the king to escape so that the white rook can go out. Black rook captures a2 combined with the knight attacking white's f2 pawn. White king escape h2 opens the way for the rook to attack the black knight. Black moves the knight and captures f2 to attack the white rook. White moves rook e1 to request a change of rook to find a way to check the black king. Black has the advantage in quantity, so black is not afraid to trade rook with white. So then, white queen d8 check. Black run the bishop to block. If now white knight takes back black rook, black goes up to bishop d5 combined with rook to put pressure on white pawn g2. White jumps knight f3 to control the center, then it can move up to e5, then d7 combined with queen adding pressure on pinning black bishop. At this time, black can immediately trade the bishop to get white knight to give the chess position like this. Generally speaking, a white queen cannot prevent rook, bishop, combine knight, and to pawns. But in the actual game, black does not trade the bishop for white's knight, but chooses to move the knight back to e4 to prevent the white king from escaping. If white's knight now jumps to e5 and threatens to jump to d7, then black moves to king g7 to unpin the bishop. If white still wants to jump the knight to d7, then the bishop goes d6 check, and then the rook goes a1 will checkmate. So in a real game, white moves to queen b8 to attack black's pawn b7. Black pushes pawn b5 to avoid the attack. At this time, the two pawns are connected together with an extremely strong bishop. The white queen is helpless. White pushes the pawn to h4. White pushes the pawn to h4 to open the way for the king. Black pushes the h5 pawn to block. White jumps knight to e5, threatening to jump to d7. Black moves to the king to g7, unpin the bishop. If the white knight moves to g7, the bishop will move to d6 and will check and capture the queen immediately. So the king retreat g1. White does not move to d6 but moves bishop to c5 check. If running king h2, then all king, queen, knight are the same on the diagonal, very easily to capture by bishop. So white runs king f1, knight g3 check. White only has one move, is to run king e1. Black bishop b4 check. White also only has one move, is to run king d1. Black bishop moves to b3 check. White also only has one move, is to run king c1. Black e to check. White also only has one move, is to run king b1. Black knight c3 check. White also only has one move, is to run king to c1. And finally rook c to checkmate. At just 13 years old, Bobby Fischer stunned the chess world by sacrificing to knights, a rook, and a queen in a breathtaking display of strategic brilliance against international master Donald Byrne. This extraordinary game not only left the spectators of that era in awe, but continues to captivate chess enthusiasts today. Fischer's audacious maneuvers showcased his unparalleled talent and foresight, solidifying his legacy as one of the greatest prodigies in the history of chess. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more chess strategies and tips, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. See you in the next videos.